Welcome to Sex Talk with Dr. Carol Clark. I'm her producer, Tom, and today we're talking about sex addiction. Dr. Clark, what is sex addiction and why do people not think it's real?
Well, sex addiction is when some kind of sexual behavior is the drug of choice for an addict. So the definition of addiction is obsessive, compulsive, out of control behavior done in spite of negative consequences to self or others. So if someone's sexual behavior, whatever the behavior is, falls into that definition, then that person could be a sex addict. So sex addiction, first and foremost, is about addiction and not about sex. Sex is simply the drug of choice. The reason some people deny the existence of sex addiction, don't like the term, whatever, have a problem with it, is several folds. One is when Dr. Patrick Carnes first coined the term sex addiction back in the 80s or so. What he did was he listed several types of sexual behavior that can be addictive. It can be the drugs of choice for a sex addict. And amongst them, he listed kinky behaviors, BDSM, non-monogamy, a lot of things that sex therapists in general are very accepting of and say, let's be sex positive. Let's be accepting of all sexual expressions. Let's not pathologize any type of behavior. And in the context of sex addiction, Dr. Carnes was not trying to pathologize the behaviors. He was simply listing some behaviors that are typically sexually addictive. So sex therapists did not make that distinction. They immediately took offense. They said, no, this is pathologizing. And so we don't like the term sex addiction. We reject it. And there you go. And it's been very difficult to dispute that. I do it all the time. And sometimes people hear it and sometimes they don't. Another reason people don't like the term is because they've made it their brand is to be anti-sex addiction. So when you write articles, write books, when you do therapy and you dispute sex addiction as a thing, you become the anti-sex addiction person. That's your brand. And so it's a great marketing ploy. And keep in mind that in today's digital world, when you search for the key term sex addiction, even if you're anti-sex addiction, your stuff is going to come up. So it's business. The third main reason that people dispute it is, in the words of Shakespeare, methinks they doth protest too much. They actually are behaving sexually addictively themselves. And since I know a lot of people in the sex therapy world, and I have direct knowledge of a lot of their behavior, things they say and do, that's a pretty powerful reason for them to dispute it, because they're actually sex addicts themselves. And they're trying to hide behind, no, everything we do is all about open sexuality and sex is good and everything is good about sex. And how dare you say that there could be something wrong with me because I'm behaving in these certain ways. So those are the three main reasons. In general, there could be a fourth, which is when some people hear some names in the sex therapy field disputing sex addiction, saying it's not a thing and it sounds good, and they put forth what sound like good arguments, people buy into it and they don't know any better. And then they just kind of, land there and say, they dig in and say, okay, I'm anti-sex addiction is not a thing, blah, 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 blah. And then they just kind of perpetuate that idea. I'm here to say sex addiction is a thing, it's real, and it's about addiction. It's not about sex. Thank you.